Well, hello, my friends. Hello, welcome in to the stream tonight. I am Dean the Turkey Legster, and this is Once Upon a Turkey Leg, my weekly live stream where I come in here and I read stories. Hope you are having a wonderful Thursday today. Today is Thursday, November the 7th of 2024. And happy to be here with you and to read you some fun stories. Dapper Rancher Crew, hello, welcome, and great to have you. So I'm in a different room. You may notice that I'm in a not my usual setup. This is kind of my studio B, if you will. Mike Beachman, hello, welcome in. And the quick story behind that is I have the bed that's back in the other room where I usually stream in is being used tonight with because my little nephews are visiting overnight, and that bed was needed, and so I am streaming in this room just for this stream, and then I'll be back next week, back in the other room with my normal background and setup. But I couldn't let a little thing like a different setup interfere with bringing you guys a fun stream tonight. So last week, of course, we had our Halloween themed story time. We had 2 weeks of Halloween themed spooky season themes, and so now we're in November. I'm not quite to the Christmas stories, so we're going to have a few weeks of classic Disney, favorite Disney characters, stories. And so I've got all those streams set up. You can tell from the thumbnails what the themes of the stories are going to be. And I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes until we get some more friends coming in. Brian, welcome in. Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a great night. So yeah, how's your week, guys, been? I know we had I'm not going to go into it comment-wise, but I know here in America, we've got, I know I've got friends that join the channel, watch the channel from outside of the U.S. But here in America, of course, we had our election earlier this week. That's all over. Finally ready to just not be inundated by all of the ads that come in. So finally glad that's over. We can kind of get on with celebrating the holidays and everything. Tina McNeil, welcome in. Happy Thursday. Welcome in. Great to have everybody here tonight. I did a pop-up stream this afternoon, earlier today. It was like late morning, out at Fort Christmas Historical Park, and I was out there. I really enjoyed it. That stream is on the channel, and really enjoyed going out there. It's really relaxing. It's not usually crowded, and it wasn't crowded this morning. There were a handful of people that arrived, but just kind of you keep to yourself, and you just enjoy it, and that's great. Brian, we got a book series. send me a message. Send me a message on Instagram, and I will consider that suggestion. But let's go ahead and let's get into the story. The stories. We've got 2 stories tonight. So tonight's stories are, of course, the first story is Disney's Peter Pan. And let me put this light down here. Might work a little better for lighting up the book here. Disney's Peter Pan classic story, Peter Pan. I haven't read this one in a while, and I haven't seen the movie in a while either. But so, if you're ready to hear a story, here we go. This story begins on a quiet street in London, at the home of the Darling family. Before bed every evening, Wendy would tell her younger brothers fantastic stories of Peter Pan's many marvelous adventures in Neverland. Real, and made him the hero of all their nursery games while fighting off pirates. But that night was to be Wendy's last night in the nursery. Wendy's father had decided that the next day she should move into a room of her own. She would have to be practical. It was time for Wendy to grow up. Oh no. Peter Pan waited until the children were fast asleep. Then he crept in through the window. A sparkling light followed him. It was Tinker Bell. Tinker Bell was a pixie and one of Peter Pan's best friends. The children woke and were delighted to see Peter Pan. Peter Pan, I knew you'd come back. I saved your shadow for you, Wendy exclaimed as she ran to get her sewing basket. I'm so glad you came back tonight, Wendy said, because it's my last night in the nursery. No, I won't have it, Peter Pan said. Come on. But where are we going? Asked Wendy. To Neverland. You'll never grow up there, Peter said. Hey, Mark, welcome in. Hello, Miles. But Peter, how do we get to Neverland? Asked Wendy. Fly, of course, he said, stretching his arms. Wendy gasped. Fly? It's easy, Peter grinned. You think of a wonderful thought. Wendy, John, and Michael all thought very happy thoughts, but still they could not fly. Peter realized they were missing something important. Pixie dust. He borrowed some from Tinker Bell and sprinkled a bit of it on each of their heads. And before they knew it, Wendy, John, and Michael were floating in the air. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Howdy Don. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. We can fly, they shouted. We can fly. Peter leaped up to the windowsill. Here we go, off to Neverland. Soon they landed on a big, puffy cloud high above Neverland, and Wendy, John, and Michael began to point out the places they recognized from Wendy's tales. There they are flying through London. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Suddenly, Peter shouted, "Look out!" A heavy cannonball shot past them, narrowly missing their heads. They were under attack. It was Peter's sworn enemy, the dastardly Captain Hook. "Quick, Tink!" Peter shouted. "Take Wendy and the boys to the island. I'll stay here and draw Hook's fire." Tink was jealous of Wendy and the boys. They were getting all of Peter Pan's attention. So she flew to the island very fast, so fast that the children could not keep up. Tinker Bell rushed into Hangman's Tree, the secret hideout where Peter's loyal friends, the Lost Boys, lived with Peter. Ooh. The Lost Boys were wild and dressed like animals, but they would do anything Peter asked. Tink lied, telling them that Wendy was attacking the island, and the Lost Boys scrambled to defend Peter's hideout. Aiming with their slingshots, they pummeled poor Wendy. And just as Wendy was about to crash, Peter Pan swooped in and caught her. Peter was very angry at Tinker Bell for playing a trick on Wendy, so he banished her, but only for a week, because Tinker Bell was the most important person in the whole world to him. Tinker Bell flew away in a huff. Wendy, John, and Michael were eager to see the island, so Peter Pan took Wendy to the Mermaid Lagoon, while the Lost Boys took John and Michael to other parts of Neverland. While Wendy and Peter were talking to the mermaids, they saw Captain Hook row by in a boat with his first mate, Mr. Smee. They had a captive. It was Peter's friend, Princess Tiger Lily. Peter and Wendy followed the pirates to Skull Rock, where Captain Hook had Tiger Lily tied up. He was trying to make her tell him the location of Peter's secret hideout. Peter swooped in, dagger drawn, and fought Hook, chasing him away. Then Peter and Wendy freed Tiger Lily and returned her home. They are going to Skull Rock. But Captain Hook did not give up quite so easily. He knew that Tinker Bell was still very angry with Peter for banishing her. So Hook kidnapped Tinker Bell and tricked her into revealing Peter's hideout. Once Tink marked the spot on the map, Hook locked her up in a lantern on his ship. That night, Captain Hook, Mr. Smee, and the pirates quietly surrounded Hangman's Tree. Then, when Wendy and the boys stepped outside, Hook's men grabbed them, tied them up, and took them to the ship. But Hook wasn't done just yet. He had a plan to get Peter, who was still inside Hangman's Tree. Hook carefully lowered a package into Peter's hideout on a long rope. The package was wrapped up like a present, but inside was a ticking bomb. Back on Hook's ship, the pirates celebrated their victory over Peter Pan. Captain Hook gleefully told Wendy and the boys that if they didn't join his crew, they would have to walk the plank. They caught the lost boys and Wendy. Gracious. Wendy refused. Peter Pan will save us, she said. Captain Hook laughed and twirled his thin mustache as he told Wendy about the bomb in Peter's tree. Peter Pan will be blasted out of Neverland forever, Hook said, cackling. No, gasped Wendy. When Tinker Bell heard Hook's evil plan, she broke out of the lantern and raced to Hangman's Tree to warn Peter. They do, Mark. But moments later, from the deck of the ship, Wendy and the boys saw a huge explosion on the island. Peter's hideout was gone. Had Tink been able to save him? It was time for Wendy to walk the plank. She bravely stepped over the edge and fell. Oh dear. But then the most curious thing happened. There was no splash. Hook and Smee were baffled. They peered over the side of the ship, but there was no Wendy and no ripple in the water. Was it a trick? Was it a curse? No, it was Peter Pan. Tinker Bell and Peter had saved Wendy. Peter Pan flew Wendy to safety at the top of the ship. Then he confronted Hook. This time you've gone too far, Peter said, pulling out his dagger. Hook drew his sword. He and Peter began to duel. Hook thrust, swiped, and stabbed with his sword, but Peter Pan flew away, just out of Hook's reach. Fly, 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 you coward, Hook snarled. You wouldn't dare fight old Hook, man to man. Nobody calls Pan a coward and lives. I'll fight you man to man, said Peter, with one hand behind my back. They clashed on the tall masts of the ship. Peter kept his word and did not fly away. Hook disarmed him, and just when it seemed like Peter Pan was doomed, He yanked the ship's flag over Hook's head and took away his sword. Oh, they're fighting. Welcome in, Chris, Curtis family. Welcome in. Jane in Travels, welcome in. You're mine, Hook, Peter Pan said. Captain Hook and the pirates fled from the ship, never to be seen again. Hooray! Hooray for Captain Pan! Wendy and the boys cheered. Tinker Bell sprinkled pixie dust all over the pirate ship. It began to float higher and higher into the sky. Finally, when the ship was up among the clouds, Peter set a course for London. When Wendy woke up by the windowsill, she noticed they were back home in the nursery with her parents. They paused to look up into the night sky to see a ship made out of clouds. I have the strangest feeling I've seen that ship before. A long time ago, when I was very young, Mr. Darling said. He realized Wendy didn't need to grow up just yet. And that is the end of Disney's Peter Pan classic story. Hope you all enjoyed that one. A great proper greeting. Mark Langenkamp and Miles, hello. Chris, the Curtis family, hello. Jay and N Travels, John and Nancy, welcome in. John, the Hitchhiking Bones, welcome in. Jason Thibodeau, welcome in. Gloria Thibodeau, welcome in. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the stream. It was our first story with our friends from the world of Peter Pan. Let us continue now with our second story tonight, again with our friends from Peter Pan. This is Captain Hook's Shadow. Mmm. 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 Walk the plank, Peter Pan, John Darling yelled, waving a wooden sword at his brother Michael. The boys were playing in their nursery. John was pretending to be Captain Hook, and Michael was pretending to be Peter Pan. I won't walk the plank, Michael said, and you're a codfish, Captain Hook. I'll get you for that, Pan, John cried. As the brothers chased each other around the room, Michael felt like he was back in Neverland. All right, John and Michael, time for bed, Wendy said, walking into the room. Just 5 more minutes, John pleaded. Just 5 more minutes. Oh, here's that picture. The other picture. All right, Wendy agreed and walked out of the nursery. A few more minutes. John and Michael began another pretend battle. But the minutes passed quickly and soon returned. Now it's really time for bed, you two, she said. Michael and John put down their swords and crawled into their beds. Wendy turned out the light and bed too. Here they are having their few more minutes. Michelle, welcome in. Hello. Happy Thursday. Wendy turned out the light and got into bed too. She was sleeping in the nursery while her new bedroom was being decorated. Michael pulled up the covers, but he wasn't the least tired. Oh. Soon John and Wendy were fast asleep. Michael squeezed his eyes shut, but it was no use. He kept picturing Captain Hook trying to capture Peter Pan. Oh. Suddenly, Michael heard a rattling sound, followed by a loud whoosh. He opened his eyes and looked around. The nursery windows were thrown wide open, but no one was there. Then Michael noticed a shadow against the far wall. He gasped in fear. The shadow looked just like Captain Hook. Michael wanted to run, but he couldn't. He would have to hide. Uh-oh. Michael quickly dove under the covers. Captain Hook was scary, but being under the covers didn't make Michael feel any better. He needed to know if the pirate was in the nursery. Slowly he lifted the edge of his blanket and peeked out. Michael still couldn't see Hook, but the captain's shadow was right there against the wall, as large as life. The shadow looked around the nursery for a moment. Then it began to creep toward the far corner. A chill ran down Michael's spine. Captain Hook was headed right toward Wendy. Michael knew he had to protect Wendy. As he glanced around the nursery, his eyes fell on his wooden sword. Michael reached down and grabbed the sword just as the shadow got to Wendy. He threw off his covers and leaped towards it. The shadow stumbled backward. Michael lunged at it again, but it swiped at him with its hook. Oh. Michael dove under his bed. The shadow reached for him, but he darted away just in time. The shadow jumped onto the bed. Michael gulped, waiting for the hook to swipe at him again. He wondered why he was seeing only Captain Hook's shadow. Where was Hook hiding? Michael knew he had to do something. He couldn't stay under the bed forever. Captain Hook was sure to get to him sooner or later. Oh my. Michael dashed into the middle of the room, but the shadow came after him. As he tried to get away, he tripped over a ball. The shadow skulked towards him. Shivering, Michael pictured the crocodile that waited for anyone who walked the plank. Suddenly, Michael heard someone call out, "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" "Peter Pan!" Michael shouted as his hero flew in. "I'm so glad you're here. Captain Hook tried to get Wendy, but I stopped him." "Hook is here?" Peter asked, looking around. "Why, it's Captain Hook's shadow. Don't let it get away." The shadow tried to run, but Peter flew after it. "It's only a shadow?" Michael asked. Suddenly he wasn't so scared. He leaped up from the floor and ran after it too. "Grab it from the other side," Peter called. Michael ran toward the shadow from the right as Peter flew at it from the left. The shadow was trapped. In a flash, Michael reached out and caught it. "Put it in here," Peter cried, holding out a sack. "You're catching the shadow." Michael stuffed the shadow into the sack, and Peter tied it closed. "That was close," Peter said. "Why was Captain Hook's shadow here?" Michael asked. "Oh, hmm. I stole the shadow for a prank," Peter explained. "Some prank. The shadow has been nothing but trouble. It pulled the lost boys' tails and put pine cones in their beds. And then it flew away from Neverland to cause trouble in London." "That sounds really awful," Michael cried, looking at Peter with wide eyes. "I'm glad we caught it." Peter nodded. "Thanks for all of your help, Michael. I'd better fly back to Neverland and return it right while everyone aboard Captain Hook's ship is still asleep. Those nasty pirates have already caused enough trouble." "Do you want to come with me?" Peter asked Michael. "It'll be a great adventure." "Not without Wendy and John," Michael replied. "Then let's bring them," Peter said, flying over to Wendy's bed. He reached down to give her a gentle shake, then drew his hand back. "Ah, she's fast asleep." He looked over at John and said, "John's asleep too." "Maybe next time," Peter said, jumping to the window ledge. "Goodbye, Michael. Tell Wendy and John that I said hello," he called. Then he flew out into the night. "I will," Michael promised. He waved good night and then went back to bed, smiling. He was glad to have had another adventure with Peter Pan. And that is the end of our second and final story on tonight's stream, Captain Hook's Shadow. Um, I've been reading out of The first story was a Disney storybook collection. It says a whole collection of the Disney classics. You can see there on the front, Peter Pan. It's got The Lion King, Frozen. It has Pinocchio there. You can see Jiminy Cricket, Wreck-It Ralph, Tangled, and Aladdin. And then on the back, you see more Aladdin there and Lady and the Tramps in there. And some other of the favorite classic stories. And then the second book is Disney Bedtime Stories. That's a whole collection of stories with favorite Disney characters. You can see all the characters there on the front. There, and there's some more on the back. There. So that is, again, that's Disney Bedtime Stories. So lots more stories to come from both of those books and more. So hope you enjoyed those stories tonight, guys. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming in and hearing the fun stories. Welcome to everyone. Michelle, welcome in. Jason Thibodeau, Gloria also came in. So welcome in everyone. And thanks for being here. So next week, of course, there's going to be more fun stories on here in Once Upon a Turkey Leg. Just take a peek at the thumbnail for next week and you'll get a clue as to what the stories are. I don't remember actually off the top of my head, but it'll be fun stories. Of course, also join me Tuesday night for Let's Talk Turkey. Both of these weekly streams are at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check out my link tree that Dawn has posted. Thank you, Dawn. That's all my links. You can contact me on Instagram, as I'm most active on. Also Facebook. Facebook, I'm going to be a lot more active going in the new year, especially as it pertains to sharing, like covering Disney news. I may not be following it or covering it as much right on the channel. So exclusively on my Facebook page might be the Disney news. But stay tuned, that may develop. So yeah, thank you again, guys, for coming in. I hope you have a gobbletastic Thursday night. And until next time, take care. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Oh, if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments and say hello. Here we go. Da 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 da.